Today's webinar, Planning for 2020. It's challenging to keep up with all the technology. What apps should you deploy? How do I communicate the value internally and externally? How do I justify budget? How do I schedule? You know, all the things we do to keep our systems current and get the most value out of our GIS. Today we'll be talking about a specific case study, their challenges, and how they justified modernization and what their business drivers were. Here's a summary of today's agenda. We'll have a brief discussion of ArcGIS, then how ArcGIS enables evaluation, stakeholder engagement, and parcel management capabilities. Then we'll turn it over to Keith Cook to get into all the details and discuss a specific case study. We have a survey at the end of the webinar after we log off. Please fill the survey out. These really help us guide future webinars and know what's important to you. I'm Brent Jones, the Industry Manager for Land Administration here at Esri, and also presenting with me is Keith Cook. Many of you may know Keith if you've been involved with Esri and local government. He has an extreme amount of experience in local government, community planning, and GIS. It's great to have him with us here today. GIS delivers powerful capabilities inside your organization and across outside organizations. Land information, property characteristics, and parcels are needed by nearly every agency in local government and in many state and federal government agencies as well. This foundation data is used on GIS projects in our office, but it's used in mapping applications for zoning, planning, emergency services, and other critical functions. It's used in the assessor or evaluation office in the field and used for all types of analysis. GIS delivers the capability to use and share data in many ways, all on a single platform. This geospatial infrastructure, of course, delivers GIS and mapping, but capabilities for analysis and visualization are now available through new applications accessible to everyone. ArcGIS integrates and enables sharing of all types of data. We often use imagery to supplement our base maps. We integrate CAMA, computer-assisted mass appraisal or property characteristic data, and data from other government business systems to leverage the spatial analysis capabilities in ArcGIS. Exciting in the world of parcels is the 3D data integration, LiDAR, and seamless import from BIM, enabling 3D cadastre evaluation capabilities that many assessors and evaluators have been asking for. Whatever data you have, it can be integrated into your GIS and combined with other data for analysis, visualization, and sharing through web services, apps, portals, and hubs. ArcGIS delivers value by managing and analyzing land information. This includes the technical mapping of deed descriptions for cadastre and land and tax systems, but also includes mapping for damage assessment, valuation, offshore, and underground environments. Importantly, in addition to the mapping and information management capabilities, ArcGIS includes applications for scheduling and managing your work, both in the office and in the field. ArcGIS enables three critical systems in land administration: the system of record, the system of insight, and the system of engagement. It's all on a common platform, eliminating the need to manage different systems and to keep them in sync. This eliminates the problems associated with the incompatibility of versions in custom and interconnected systems. The common platform or geospatial infrastructure solves this for us. These three systems are the backbone for the work we do. The system of record delivers a complete solution for creating, editing, and managing parcels and cadastral data, maintaining the survey record and history. The system of insight delivers advanced spatial analytical capabilities for calculating value, visualizing valuation model results, and understanding and visualizing land value trends. And the system of engagement delivers a secure data sharing system internally with stakeholders and with the public. You can control who you share data with, what they get, and what they can do with the data. This is extremely powerful. All three systems are interconnected on a single platform. ArcGIS has many analytical tools that help assessors and valuers improve values, visualize value modeling results, and detect data errors. Advanced analytical capabilities like geographic weighted regression, forest-based regression, and machine learning are all available in the familiar ArcGIS user interface. You can easily perform many types of exploratory analysis, test your models, and visualize your results using maps, charts, and graphs that work together. You can improve field efficiency by scheduling work, optimizing routes, eliminating paper, and have a holistic view of where your work and field workers are. There's a great book just published by IAAO, the International Association of Assessing Officers, that goes into the uses of GIS for valuation in great detail with some good case studies. It's available on Amazon. Public engagement is an ongoing, evolving experience. Just like paper maps and property cards are no longer how the public expects to access data, websites that are hard to use and cumbersome are not well accepted by the public either. And of course, everyone expects the data to be current, accurate, and available on mobile devices. Public expectations are a moving target and will continue to move. Maintaining strong public engagement helps reduce appeals and improve the public's appreciation for your office. This can be done by deploying configurable apps and maps. The ArcGIS Hub is a modern portal to the public designed to share data and engage the public, private sector, academia, and nonprofits to help with specific policy initiatives and transparency. We'll have more on this in future webinars, but in the meantime, don't hesitate to engage us if you have a current need. We want to improve efficiency, accuracy, and to share authoritative parcel data from one source, the single source of the truth. With ArcGIS Pro, you can configure your own workflows, though it comes with most of the workflows you probably need. You can eliminate duplicate tasks and have as many editors working on that data that you'd like. Because it's COTS, there's also standardized training coming. The Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro is based on web services, which has a lot of benefits just in how the platform is designed. Whether you're in the Parcel Fabric in ArcMap or want to move to the new capabilities in Pro without any Parcel Fabric experience, migrating your data and implementing is much easier than in the past. I'd just like to summarize that ArcGIS enables and optimizes all critical land administration workflows, beginning with data collection in the field, including drones, LiDAR, and photogrammetry, to efficient and secure parcel management workflows, to modeling and analysis for valuation, and visualizing the results for uniformity, compliance, outlier detection, and communicating appropriate data with internal organizations and with the public. For each area, robust data management, advanced analytics and visualization, dashboards, and smart mapping are core enabled capabilities. Before I pass this over to Keith, I'd like to point out a few resources that will help keep you current and get the most out of your GIS investment. No need to copy these down. I'll paste these in the window after I pass this over to Keith. We have a meeting, essentially an informal web meeting, where we discuss just about everything land records. We have one for assessors and valuation as well. The land records meetup is primarily focused on parcels, and the assessors and GIS meetup is focused on valuation, modeling, and assessor workflows. We also have GeoNet. It's like the Facebook for GIS users. Here you can post questions, connect with peers, and get access to a lot of resources. All the recorded meetups are posted right here. And the Esri training and learning site also, there's a limitless amount of training and learning plans available to you. If you haven't explored the training site, please do. Now over to Keith.
Thanks, Brent. So I'm really happy to be able to talk with you all today about Mobile County Revenue Commission, and this has been one of my favorite clients to work with. I'm very happy, very honored to be able to work with them, especially over the last 3 years in terms of their development. So if you're not familiar with let me make sure I've got this. Yep. So if you're not familiar with Mobile County, let me just give you a little briefing on there. It's down in the southern part of Alabama. It's on the western end of Mobile Bay. It's a very large county geographically. So it's about a little over 1,600 total square miles. It's the second largest county in Alabama. And it's actually larger than the state of Rhode Island. So it also has islands. You can see down there in the lower part, that's Dauphin Island, on the southern end there towards the entrance of Mobile Bay. But beautiful area, but growing very quickly, both in the city and in the surrounding areas. So there's been a huge amount of pressure just in terms, in terms of Mobile County providing services, and certainly that extends over to land records and tax assessment. So a little bit about the Revenue Commission before we dive into this. They deal with about 210,000 parcels, and obviously that number is growing. The Revenue Commissioner in Alabama, in all 67 counties, just like in many other parts of the country, is an elected position. And Kim Hasty is the Revenue Commissioner. We initially started working with Ronald Davis. He was the GIS manager and now is the Deputy Chief Assessor at the county. And Amanda Melton oversees GIS there. So one of the tasks that Mobile County has is that a third of their county has to be reappraised on an annual basis. And so again, just with the amount of growth that's going on in that county, as well as coupled with the size of that county, puts a lot of stress on the Revenue Commission. We had been talking with the Revenue Commission for many years, and prior to 2017, the way that they were handling land records was, well, to be perfectly blunt, was how a lot of counties were handling it as well. They had some legacy tools in place for parcel management because they had had these tools for a long time. Their mappers were used to them. But part of the stress for that was that the application or the program that the assessors and the appraisers had to use was essentially the same thing that the mappers were using, meaning they had way too powerful of an application for what they really needed to do, which was often just to be able to search properties and get information from the CAMA system. They also had no modern solution in place for field data collection, and their web presence to the public was not particularly useful and well used by the public at that time. So they recognized that, again, this was not a revelation to them. This is something they had been struggling with for a while. And then they came to us with an idea about modernizing their entire land record system. So instead of just focusing on the paper map books that were sitting out in the lobby, they wanted to have a current system, a modern system, to meet both their needs internally for their workflows for taxation and assessment purposes, but also for the public as well, and meet not just their current needs, but what was going to be expected of them down the road. So their approach was not just the tax parcel mapping, but also how they would deal with assessment. And they also, one of the things that I really enjoyed in our conversation when we were sort of mapping this out was how Ronald and the IT staff and the mapping staff kept emphasizing the importance of, we just want best practices. We don't want to tread new ground. We want to know exactly what's the right path for us, what's sustainable for us as far as our parcel mapping, as far as managing our data, as far as integrating with our CAMA system. They use Capture from eRing, which is an outstanding business partner of ours, and many of the counties within Alabama also use that for CAMA system. So obviously it was important that both the mapping and this mission critical business system were working together. But one of the other things that we came across in our discussion, I mentioned how many of the assessors and the appraisers and even the administrators were having traditional desktop GIS tools on their machines when they really weren't doing GIS work. They were just doing basic searches. So they wanted to be able to move to a more modern approach and not have folks rely on GIS software on their machines to be able to access this mapping data. Because there were two stresses that this was causing them. One was they had about 40 desktop clients that they were having to maintain. So first of all, you're paying a maintenance on those, an annual software maintenance on those licenses. And secondly, IT, whenever there was an update that had to be done, had to go to all 40 machines and update those licenses. And then the last part was that they were also, you had assessors and appraisers that had machines, that had computers that were really more powerful than but they had to be that powerful to be able to run that desktop software. So we found that this would be something that would alleviate a lot of pressure on IT, as well as free up a lot of funds that were going towards software maintenance that they really didn't need to use. So the first step of the process for them obviously was let's update and modernize our parcel management. The first thing that they did is we helped them move to the Parcel Fabric, right? So this is the first rendition of the Parcel Fabric. There's a newer one that's out now. But at the time, that's what was available. And the main driver for that was making sure that they had increased accuracy. Mobile County had seen how other counties had struggled when they did not have very spatially accurate data. And so they wanted to make sure they avoided that. When we discussed the Parcel Fabric and helped them understand what that meant for them as far as spatial accuracy, as far as maintaining the data going forward, that was something that really appealed to them. I mentioned before that they wanted to be able to make sure they were integrated with their CAMA system from eRing, and that was obviously a top priority for us. And then again, also training the mappers. So it wasn't just learning new software. The concepts were relatively similar, but there was also training on new software, as well as some additional new concepts in terms of land management that they didn't really have access to before. So one of the things that I've really enjoyed seeing and working with them is that the mappers there have really embraced the concept of training and learning new software, but not just new software, but also new concepts, how to maintain their land records in a best practices format. So that's been really enjoyable personally for me to watch as that's gone along. Now, once the data was in place internally, once we had that established, one of the other things that we wanted to help them establish was how to improve their field assessment. They wanted to be able to take street level photography. Again, when you're covering about 500 square miles per year, that's a lot with a limited staff. And so their previous efforts, you can see here some of the examples on the screen from some of the work that they had done in the past. So you can see what happens when you take a photograph when the window is rolled up, right? You get reflection, or sometimes you get people in the way of the shots, right? And then the bottom line was that a lot of their previous efforts weren't standardized. And of course, that's going to lead to inconsistent data quality. And that's one of the things they were experiencing. So the two main business drivers for them wanting to improve their field assessment was they needed to assure the taxpayers that the accuracy of their assessments. That was absolutely key, because, and any of you that work in land records know the importance of this, but they obviously wanted to alleviate a lot of interactions that they were having, maybe unnecessary interactions that they were having with taxpayers, because there wasn't an assurance of accuracy. And so with standardization helps, obviously that helps to assure accuracy. And so that provided that standardization through these technology assisted appraisals, so that you can be assured that as the property owner in one part of the county, your property is assessed in the same manner as one on the opposite side of the county. And so that there is standardization and accuracy throughout that entire process. So some of the lessons that were learned here, and I'll just highlight a couple of them. This was, we provided some assistance to them during the pilot project, but really most of this they have handled on site and themselves. So they learned about how to mount the cameras, right? How to time how to have time interval pictures with a steady speed, and I'm going to go over some of the metrics for this at a later slide. They wanted to make sure they had cameras facing on each side of the street. So think of it this way: the county office is located obviously in the city of Mobile. As they have to go out to different parts of the county, now as they are driving along those routes, they're able to take updated photos along the way to the areas that they were planning to assess anyway. So there's no wasted movement, right? There's no wasted data collection. As they're going out to collect data, they're already to targeted areas, they're already collecting data, right? They also learned to leaving cameras on the outside could pose the risk of theft, right? So they placed them in the car and rolled down the window. So you can see a shot here on the right side of how their cameras are mounted as their county vehicles are going out to neighborhoods to assess properties. One of the things that they wanted to use to help automate this process, and automation was really the key. So one of the applications that we provided was the photo survey application. Now this is part of ArcGIS Solutions. I'm just going to give you a brief, just a small briefing on this in case you're not familiar with this. ArcGIS Solutions are a suite of focused maps and apps that are provided as part of the ArcGIS platform. We have dozens of solutions that are specifically made just for land records. We also do these for other verticals, for planning and economic development, which is more my field of specialty, for utilities, for law enforcement, for emergency management, and so forth. And these are created by a team at Esri of about 75 people, and this is all they do, is they work on these apps. And thankfully, they don't do these in a vacuum. We work with our users to actually understand what's needed, what needs to be modified, and so forth. So benefits in the ArcGIS Solutions is that there's no cost, they're free, they're part of the ArcGIS platform. They are all open source applications. So if you want access to the code, we give that to you. They're also configurable. So I'm not a developer, I have no desire to be a developer. So that's great for me because now I can configure these. I can make sure that my city or county's logo is on there and I can have the map and the interface look the way that I want. They're also covered by tech support as well. So if you have issues getting them set up, that's covered for you with tech support. So what Photo Survey does is help to automate by creating a standardized survey as to go through each of the properties. And this is completely configurable, so you can help identify changes to the properties and whether or not there's blight. One of the reasons why they wanted to do this, I mentioned that Mobile County is growing exponentially, it seems. And on the bottom left-hand side, you can see how, well, why can't we resort to something like a Google Street View? Well, this is a Google Street View of a property, and there's the same view of the property from May of last year, right? So this process provides them more up-to-date information and the ability to assess more accurately, and again, in a standardized manner. And again, being able to use this tool as a way to engage taxpayers to say, why was my assessment valued this way? We can actually bring up the photos of their property in having these discussions with them. So in order to not actually have to go through each individual photograph, one of the things that Mobile County is doing is leveraging machine learning. They're doing this actually in the cloud right now, but what they're using are some AI tools to be able to review these photos for anomalies. So let's give some perspective here. During the pilot project stage, for about 3 hours, we went out with Mobile County staff, ended up taking a little over 8,000 pictures to cover 1,200 properties. There's a lot of data that was gathered. So instead of we don't want to necessarily force the county to go over each photo individually, although they can when they need to. We wanted to be able to provide some AI tools to be able to look for anomalies like deferred maintenance, or if there's overgrowth in the yard, boarded up windows, to be able to understand where there's blight and so forth. Because blight affects us both from a planning standpoint, I'm certainly sensitive to that coming from the planning side, but also from a land records and an assessment value. When you have blighted properties, it's going to drag down adjoining properties as well. So they wanted to be able to do change detection from the street level, to be able to see changes from previous years, again, see boards on homes, to see additions and so forth, and to be able to access that information, be able to analyze it in a quicker sense. So let's look at a workflow comparison here. On the left, you can see when they manually went out and took pictures, when they turned out okay, because there wasn't a reflection or someone didn't get in the way. It took about 5.5 years to photograph every parcel within the county. Doing this modern data-driven method, again, keeping a standard speed and so forth, doing this just for 5 hours a day, one team is able to cover their necessary area in 60 days. So it's a huge time saving, but not just time saving, as I mentioned before, it's more accurate. There's standardization in how that data is collected. There's standardization in how that data is analyzed, right? So as you might imagine, some of the results, again, there's a greater ability now to have more confidence in these review appraisals. When Joe Q Public comes in and says, I don't understand this appraisal, we can sit down and actually look at the same information, right? And again, it will have been collected in the same manner across the county. And it provides high-res, up-to-date photos of all areas, not just within the city of Mobile, but also within the suburban areas, and there are a lot of them throughout Mobile County, and the rural areas as well. Again, they've added a CAMA system comparable tool, and they have control of photo generation within the CAMA system. So again, making sure that they're integrated with the E-ring capture CAMA system. So that's where they are on field assessment. And then just to give you a preview of some of the next steps that we're looking forward to is implementing some of these additional ArcGIS solutions. So obviously we have the photo survey app in place, and they have a couple of others for internal workflows, but we'll be helping to set up the value analysis dashboard. This will be on Commissioner Hasty's desk, as well as the chief appraiser, assessors, and so forth. And then the public will be able to see information through a simple tax parcel viewer. I love this one too, so the My Tax Distribution, so that I can click on a particular property here and actually see how my property tax information is actually, where it's going. How much of it is it going to schools or libraries or fire districts or what have you. And then, as we mentioned before, we'll also be improving, we'll be able to take these apps and other information and be able to populate them through ArcGIS Hub. And so that's going to give the public a very focused way to be able to see what's going on as far as taxation and assessment within Mobile County, something that makes sense to them. So yes, it's open data, but it's very focused open data for them, right? So just to summarize, Mobile County for many, many years was in a legacy system for both their mapping and assessment. It was causing them to fall behind and I'm not really sure this was measured, but I feel confident in saying that it was costing the county in terms of money, in terms of taxation and proper assessment. So they needed improved parcel production. They also need an easier way to comply with the Alabama Department of Revenue requirements. And so one of the interesting things is we presented on this at the Alabama Association of Assessing Officials summer conference a couple of months ago. And it was really nice that the state DOR was up there as well and understood that this is a process that the other 66 counties can help employ as well. Again, just to make sure that there's better compliance through standardization. We've empowered assessment staff now with modern field data collection tools, right? So not just the photo survey, but also being able to use handheld devices out in the field to be able to collect and update information. Again, we've made sure that the integration with the CAMA system was tightened. And in the end, what this is going to mean is if we have better data coming in, we have better analysis, we're better able to serve the public. We're more accurate, we can provide more accurate information and assessments to them. One of the things that Brent had highlighted here, and I like this slide, so I wanted to bring this up, and I think we'll keep this up during the questions. We talk about this a lot to GIS managers, where we talk about how making sure that they understand that GIS is a system of systems. This pertains specifically to land records as well. So obviously the system of record, very important, right? And that's where Mobile County started in this process. We've got to make sure that the system of record for parcels, for appraisals is accurate. If that's not in place, nothing else matters. But it's not just about a system of record, it's also about a system of insight. I have to remind sometimes our longtime GIS managers that have been in this field a while, that this is why GIS was created to begin with, right? It was about analysis. It wasn't actually to create maps. It was actually to analyze information and get insight on it. And so this is so important from a value analysis standpoint to understand issues with equalization, to be able to understand where there are blighted properties and understand where there are similar neighborhoods, where there are other neighborhoods that have similar characteristics, so we can help head off potential blight situations. And then the other system that is growing so significantly, especially in the last 5 to 6 years, is this concept of a system of engagement, where we're really meeting the modern expectations of the public in terms of how they access information and how they provide information back to us, but also how we share and collaborate internally and be able to share content internally, sometimes secure, sometimes not. But this allows us to better work. This helps the Revenue Commission be able to work with other departments at the county, with the city, with the city of Mobile, and with other cities throughout the county, but also makes the public feel like they're involved. So Mobile County Revenue is certainly not at the finish line yet. They are, but they have made immense strides in the past couple of years. I'm really excited to see where they're going to go down the road. So with that, Brent, I'll pass it on to you and see if we're going to tackle any questions out there.
All right, Keith, thanks a lot. Excellent presentation. For those of you out there in webinar land, there is a chat box and a question box. Please, I pasted a whole bunch of resources as Keith was talking into the chat box, the solutions gallery page, the solutions site, the learning site, the meetup sites, and GeoNet and the Amazon link for the book and those sorts of things. So go ahead and look in the chat box if you want those links that were that referenced the presentation earlier. And go ahead into the question box and type a question. We'll take questions now. I'll start with taking questions as I see a few coming in. First question I have is, how do I implement the new Parcel Fabric? What is different from the Parcel Fabric in ArcMap? Okay, good question. The Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro versus the Parcel Fabric in ArcMap is a totally re-architected, redesigned new system. It uses all the capabilities of Pro. It's services-based, and it allows your data to be input in the condition that your data is in. So your data doesn't have to be perfect or really good to get into the Parcel Fabric in Pro. You can migrate in with the data you have and then use the tools in ArcGIS Pro to clean up your data. And there's a particular tool in there that's pretty cool. It's called it's the Error Inspector. It lets you drive around your data, look at what's wrong with your data, and gives you some suggestions for repairing your data. And one real difference, I guess, to the hands-on user that makes a real big difference is that all the tools, all the editing tools in Pro can be used against the Fabric. For those of you that have used the Parcel Fabric in ArcMap, you know there's a limited set of tools. Well, all the tools in Pro are available. I should have done a poll to see how many of you are actually using Pro and getting the benefits out of that. If you have ArcMap, you have ArcGIS Pro. So there's no additional cost to implementing Pro. The user interface is much more modern. There's some training and webinars on the learning site on getting used to Pro from moving from ArcMap. A couple questions coming in. Let me. I'm going to go on the Parcel Fabric ones quickly, then I'll go back to the non-Parcel Fabric questions. I like this question. Is the Parcel Fabric really ready on the first release? The answer is yes, we have. I don't know how many counties and countries have implemented the Parcel Fabric to date, but it's several dozen. So my advice to you is to put in a sample set of data, a small set of data, start playing with it, see what you think. And if you're one of those people that are really nervous about the first release, well, the second release is coming in December with a lot additional capabilities that are aligned with the product plan. So the
hey, Brent, do you mind if I jump in on that? I
yeah, no, go right ahead.
Just from my standpoint, and I work with a solution engineer named Will Myers, who is also on the land records team, and he's been out to Redlands for holistic testing on this. and was doing that months and months ago. So this new fabric, just from my discussions with him, and I know you know have more detail about it, but this has been years in the making. So I understand the concern about the first release and so forth, but this has not been something that we have taken lightly by any stretch, and it is. I think the work that has been put into this, and Will was telling me just how impressed he was with it, as far as how open how it opens up a lot of doors to a lot of land record shops that, like you mentioned, may not have had perfect data, right? And now being able to take advantage of the accuracy that the Parcel Fabric provides without having to be perfect going into it. So he's said great things about it, and has talked about how much work has already gone into it.
Yeah, I think it's about 50 man years of development, and that's on top of the underlying geospatial infrastructure, the platform, the capabilities, the services infrastructure, and the network infrastructure necessary. So it's pretty big. It's a pretty big deal. Okay, now, what is the status of the Parcel Fabric and Pro? I've been unable to find much of the resources or training or error interpretation and so forth. It seems to have much better tools for local tasks, but not larger adjustments. That's a really good question. The two things to find very technical answers for that. One is go on to GeoNet, look for the land records place. I think it's places is kind of how we call those communities. There's one for land records. And you will have access to peers and experts to get very detailed questions answered there. Let's see. With the December release, have fabric adjustments. The least squares adjustments will not be available in the December release. Currently, the Pro Tools do not adjust the entire fabric. Only local transformations. Seems not to move all layers, points, get left behind segments. That's another good question. I can answer that on the surface, but that's another good one to take to GeoNet and to the Land Records Meetup. There's another tool after you do an adjustment of the fabric called spatial adjustment that tracks the adjustments of the fabric. If you're using the Parcel Fabric and ArcMap, you may know how this works, is that the displacement vectors or the adjustments that happen on the parcel corners are applied to other layers, so you can keep your layers spatially in sync. It treats the Parcel Fabric as kind of a tertiary control network in a way. I know that's not a complete answer, but those questions can get very technical, and you probably want some of the surveyors on the development team to take a look at those to make sure we get exactly what you're asking. Here's one for you, Keith. What are the costs associated with the mountable cameras and associated software? I'll take the software question. You can have the camera question. How's that? The software is part of the platform. It's on the solutions gallery, the solutions site, which I've pasted in the chat window. So hopefully you can find it. If you have a hard time finding that, post the question again, and I'll repaste it. But I think those cameras are what, a couple $100 each?
Yeah, that's all. That was something that was important to the counties, that they couldn't go out and spend, enormous amounts of money on the cameras. So yes, I think each camera was in the $180 to $200 range. And if I can get the specs, I'll post it up on GeoNet. But no, that was one of the things when they were looking at this, and I think one of the perks of being able to use this with the photo survey application is you don't have to have a $1,000 camera to be able to do this. Because if it required a $1,000 camera, Mobile County was not getting it. So.
Okay, here's one. Another question. I saw an Insights screenshot in your webinar. Can I use Insights in my office? I'm an assessor. Yes, you can. And we have a couple configurations of Insights that we've thrown together that we think assessors would like. But if you are interested in using Insights, let me know, and and I'll track down those configurations. Those are available, I believe, on the solution site as well. So that's a good question. That's a handy tool.
And I'm a huge proponent of insights. And I think regardless of the business system, obviously we'd probably be talking about CAMA and so forth in this use of insights. But when you think about it in terms of permitting, asset management, crime data in an RMS system, these are systems that, your cities and counties have spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions on over the years. And I love how insights just helps you extract more value out of it. Sometimes there's a map involved, sometimes there isn't. But just the ease of use of being able to take an output from one of your business systems and then being able to answer more questions from your business system, I think is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's an application that takes a lot of location and spatial capabilities to non-GIS users in a non-GIS interface.
Exactly.
So if you have users that need a little bit of maps and some analytics, and you don't want to deploy a pro on their desktop, and they don't want to learn pro, Insights is kind of the next step from kind of in between. I guess it would be in between Excel and ArcGIS Pro, but it gives you those tools in a really nice user interface and pretty easy to use.
Yep.
Okay, got another question here. What new apps are coming in land records for 2020? Good question. I don't know. For one, I know one cool app that's supposed to be coming out in October, and TikTok on October here. We got about 6 or 7 days left. But it's an ArcGIS hub configuration for land records for the assessor's office. So it takes several of the land records apps that are commonly used and puts them together in a common public engagement ArcGIS hub site. So pretty excited about that. I mentioned in the webinar that public engagement it's an ongoing challenge, and things continue to change, and the public expects more and more, and in different ways. So we're responding to that with this new hub implementation. So keep your eyes open for that. If you're not subscribed to the meetups or any of our newsletters, it will certainly show up in all of those types of media.
Yep. As far as the solutions goes, the solutions team is very active on GeoNet, and they will usually provide updates on, I would say it's at least on a quarterly basis, if not more often, about updates that are coming. And so those updates are going to include not just new apps, but also changes and improvements to existing apps.
Okay, perfect. That's the last question I have, Keith, that came to me. Do you have any questions that came to you?
I think the one that we've been asked from time to time when we've talked about this Mobile County story is, can I do this myself? And so I think the answer is yes, you can. They used a combination of Mobile County in this case used a combination of some professional services from Esri to help get the ball rolling, but they are doing, I would say, at least 50, 60, 70% of this themselves on site. So we're helping to provide guidance, and we also have some fantastic business partners in this space that can help with this as well. But I think the bottom line is that we also have training. We also have tons of resources, so that if you want to do this yourself, you absolutely can. You are certainly not beholden to have to bring us in there or a partner in there to be able to do it. We will absolutely show you the tools and everything that you'll need to be able to do this yourself.
Yeah, on a side note there, looking at the attendee list of who's on the webinar and still on, there are several partners on. So for those of you that have a partner that you like to use, the chances are they know how to do most of this work as well. Any other questions, Keith?
That's it. That's all I have.
All right. Okay. We'll go going once, twice, thrice, and then we'll give you. We'll sign off. But I would like to close by thanking you for your time and attention. I would also encourage you to please fill out the seminar, the survey that comes to you, the survey questionnaire. following this. It doesn't take that long, but provides an extreme amount of help for us. So thank you, and don't hesitate to contact any of us should you need anything. Have a good day.